10, 9.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RxMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio. Watch out!
Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician, Chris Aceto, on this November 25th, 2019 evening. And Chris, the NPC Nationals is in the books. Another show that I boycotted going to. Now, I didn't boycott the show because I think it's a great show, but I boycott going to the show. I know you only went to the prejudging for probably 20 minutes, but how was it?
Well, you know, I love Miami, and it's not the Miami Nationals. It's the NPC Nationals, but it's in a great city, Miami.
Well, you have your little condo there, so that makes it a lot easier for you to
go. Show was good, good turnout. A lot of big classes. Surprisingly, I was relieved to see like almost 30 heavies and 32 light heavies, and
definitely the numbers are up.
Yeah, the numbers were decent. Welters, I think there were like not a lot, maybe 15. The lightweights are only 10, which is think of that, Dave. In the bigger classes, the heavier classes, there were more people, but the smaller classes, the lightweights, I think there were like 10, and the welterweights, 14.
Bantamweight's four guys.
Explain that to me.
You could probably get some of these classic guys going into like the bantamweight class.
I know. So explain it to me. Do people just run into the classic? I don't know.
Well, look at the women's bodybuilding had about 8 people maybe in the whole show. 6 people. If I was a women's physique girl with a little more muscle than normal, I would just have jumped in there. You would have gotten an easy pro card.
Yeah.
Although the girl who won was really good. I was looking at the pictures. I'm sure you didn't watch it, but
no, I didn't watch it, dude.
I don't know why they don't just combine women's physique and women's bodybuilding at this point. I don't get it. I helped the girl. She was 3rd. She just missed the pro card in Class B. Katie Smith. She looked great.
I saw you boy meltdown there. Well, people wanted to know, why is Dave not doing the play-by-play? That was a common question. Why isn't he doing the play-by-play?
Well, because Steve Carroll's, pardon my French, douchebag, and I'm not going to the show anymore. Not because I can't go. I'm sure if I called Jim Mannion and said, "Can I get press passes?" he'd give them to me and us. I'm not wasting money covering the show. I'm not going to the show as long as Steve Carroll's promoting it. I've already made that clear, and I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to sit there with Steve Carroll ready to call the cops and have me escorted out of there, and I'm going to spend 3 days working my balls off, critiquing 1,000 athletes, and then interviewing everyone, and then doing wrap-ups, and I have to, I'm not being treated well. So, fuck that. When Tamer El Gundi or Steve Weinberger or one of those guys are promoting the show, I'll be there. I'll drive there myself. I'll stay there the whole weekend. So, but not until then. They got to clean that show up. It's the last show that really is not being run well. They still have, Steve Carroll still has like the old, if you leave the theater, there's no re-entry. Who does that? People go out and buy food. There's 1,000 people in the show. The show lasts 16 hours.
Yeah, Dave, that can't be true.
It's true. I know people. They told me. It was true when I was there 2 years ago.
What do you mean if you leave the show? Like if you go to the bathroom?
You can't leave. You can't leave the auditorium.
You can't leave and go to your hotel room and come back?
No re-entry. Now, if you're a competitor, you have the competitor pass, so you can go. But if you're a person who purchased a ticket for $120 for the night show and you leave, you're done. That's it.
So if you went to the New York Islanders game or the Patriots game, can you leave the stadium and come back in?
I would assume you could if you have your ticket stub, and you stamped. So I don't know where he gets these crazy ideas from, but that's who they're letting run the Nationals. So hopefully they'll make a change soon. My vote would be, like I said, for Steve Weinberger's crew or Tamer El Gunti. to get that nationals. I think they'll do a great job with it. And they'll modernize it, you know what I mean? They'll set up a press area for the press to sit and press to work and interview people, and it won't be like you have to worry about, I can't, God forbid if I step backstage, I'm going to be escorted out of there, or God forbid that the press has access to the athletes after they win, and they don't have to like try to track them down in the lobby or something like that. I mean,
if I ask him for their hotel room number so he can come up.
Yeah, what a ridiculous policy. I mean, how stupid. Look at what Dan Solomon did at the Olympia. Look how easy the access he made for people, for the press, and because he gets it in social media. Oh, I know what he said. I think someone got yelled at because Steve grabbed someone because they were putting the show on their Instagram story. That's what it was. And everyone does that, right? So he caught one person, I think, and you can't do that. Well, you know what? There's 1,000 other people in here doing the same thing. There's so much video of the show, and there was no video supposedly allowed, that it's a joke. Because everyone's shooting video. Everyone in their pocket has a video camera, essentially now.
Why can't you shoot video? Are they selling the official video?
Who knows? NPC is official. He has his own crazy, stupid policies. Dan realized that you can't stop people from videoing the stage, so he didn't even try. You can't have. Look, when you go to WWE, you like to use the WWE. We've talked about the WWE before. I'm not going to mention why, but when you go to WWE, you can video with your phones and stuff like that. But if they see that you have a video, like a TV video camera, they'll come and talk to you and tell you.
Yeah, you're doing it on a commercial basis.
Right, because they don't. Because in other words, they understand that people are going to film with their phones, but they don't want people doing high quality stuff, which they're going to sell, and then that's going to cut into their copyright. And obviously, WWE has its own broadcast network, so it's not even like a good analogy. But yet you can still stream from your phone there because they know that that's social media. That you can't stop that. And you have to modernize your thought processes based on what the existing climate is. And the existing climate is that there's social media that everyone films with on their camera, on their phone. But, it's not high quality. And who cares? Who cares? No one gives a shit. No one cares. There's no exclusivity anymore. It doesn't matter. If you're letting people in a theater, with their phone, and you're not taking their phones away from them, then there's no exclusivity policy. You just ended it, There shouldn't be anyway. You're making enough money on the show. How much money do you have to make on the show? Right? You have 1,000+ competitors in the show paying you whatever it is, $350. I don't know what the application fee is now.
Yeah.
How much money do you have to make? At some point, don't you say, you know what? Let me make the competitors have a better experience because that's going to make the show better. I don't have to try to pocket every single dime, from the show. I could spend some on making people have a good experience at the show.
Well, you know what, Dave? The part that is, makes the class winners of all the classes, feel good is when they can do the post-win interview with,
with anyone.
And it doesn't
have to be me. With anyone,
different people.
Yeah, it could be
because everybody's got their different way of interviewing,
right,
and making the winner feel good.
Sure,
if
NPC's backstage, great. Why not have muscle development interviewing people?
I was just going to say, Dave. I was just going to say that even includes you, Ron Harris.
Yeah, no. Let MD interview. Let Max Muscle Report interview people. Let RxMuscle interview people. Let whoever's there, who's ever willing to take the time to be there and put it up on their channel, okay, and has a legitimate, obviously, channel that's not using it for illicit purposes. Let them be there. Find a place to set up a press area, and the athletes know, hey, that's the press area. So when I win, I know that I'm going to hit whatever NPC News backstage because whatever they got, that's what they got. And then they're going to come out and they're going to go to the press area and get interviewed by everyone else. Like that's exciting. Hey, I won. Everyone wants to interview me. Here's where I go, and I'm going to get interviewed. And that's wonderful. I don't know. All right, I'm not gonna complain about it, but that's why I wasn't there, and that's why Chris. That's why Chris was there for 10 minutes. Yeah. The girl I was talking about was Erica Hartman. She won the women's bodybuilding. She looked really good, shredded. So I wanted to give her a shout out, even though there was only like 6 or 7 girls in the whole show. Mm-hmm. She looked really good, so she deserved it. She deserved her pro card. All right, let's go back to men's bodybuilding here for a second. Should I even start with that? I guess we got to talk about the show first. I had other stuff to talk about too, but I'll save it.
No, you talk about it first, because then you're not going to forget about the bodybuilding show. So talk about it.
I wanted to mention that I interviewed Ronnie Coleman this past week because he's got a new book. He's got the new book out. Yeah, buddy. They sent me a PDF copy. I haven't read it yet. I read part of it. You know that Ronnie Coleman wrote the book. It wasn't. You know how usually these guys come out with books. It says Ronnie Coleman with a co-author,
as told by,
and then the co-author is the guy who wrote the whole book. Ronnie wrote the book himself, and Ronnie told me something I didn't even know about him, that he was a writer. He used to write for the school newspaper in I think college or something like that, or high school, I don't know. And I think it was college. And then he actually wound up being the editor of the newspaper. And he said, you know, editing is way, way, way tougher. I said, I know it. I've edited before. I said, Ronnie, I own a media website. He said, I've edited John Romano. I said, that's the worst person you could have to, ever in your life edit. I said, because he writes high on marijuana. I said, I have to edit all of the stuff he writes. But Ronnie wrote the book and he edited the whole thing himself. So that was impressive, I thought. I don't think a lot of people knew that Ronnie was a writer.
He did the writing and the editing?
Yes, that's what he told me.
Yeah, usually you need it's like contest prep. You do the diet yourself, but you have somebody second pair of eyes.
I'm sure there was another set of eyes who read it too, but he said he edited through everything himself. And that's why it took such a long time, which I was very impressed with. Because Ronnie speaks very Southern, but he writes very articulately. He's a very intelligent guy. A lot of people don't realize that because he has that like simplistic logic, that Yogi Berra like logic. But he's a very, very educated person.
Logic should be pretty simple, really. That's why it's called logic,
right? But he doesn't speak, as if you would think he was like a college educated guy who wrote for school newspaper. You speak to my dad. My dad sounds like he's a scholar, mm-hmm. And there's nothing. It doesn't mean anything, but it's deceptive. It's like being a bodybuilder. You're always taken as a moron, because you just look so big that that guy can't be smart. Ronnie's very smart and intelligent. The thing that I came away with the interview was very I was having trouble eliciting responses from Ronnie. He got a phone call in the middle of the interview. It was like he seemed a little distracted, and I don't know. I have a feeling it's because he's in a lot of pain again. I don't think a lot of people knew because I thought he was doing well, but evidently he ruptured another disc in his thoracic spine, and according to Ronnie, he has every single disc he has is ruptured or whatever the term for it is. He doesn't have a single disc that's not, which is obviously not a good thing.
Yeah.
So he's walking in, discomfort. He's on pain meds, from what he told me, mm-hmm. which kind of can flatten your affect out a little bit, can kind of, take you out of, the loop, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I feel bad for the guy because you know what? No one wants to live in pain. And now he needs his hip replaced again. 5 years after getting the hip done. Yeah. He needs to do it again. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with the way he trains. I tell people all the time, they're like, can you train with your shoulders? I'm like, I could do anything. I have no pain. They're like, how much weight can you press? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to test it out. I said, I lift enough to give myself a nice little workout. And I'm not looking to set any records because the heavier the weight you lift, I'm talking crazy weights. I'm lifting, challenging weights, but I'm not going to the gym and trying to, do 225 in the bench press anymore. I don't need to. I'm happy to do 135 for, 15 reps, I can't even believe I can do that. I might do a little more than that, but I'm not going to be pushing the envelope because I want my shoulder replacement to last. Now, I don't, I have to believe, Ronnie's were pretty good, for a while. So he I don't know if he wore it out. He said they used titanium in him. And he said it's wore out or something like that, or it's loose or something like that. So now they're going to go back in there and put a plastic cup in there. He claims it's a simple revision, but from what I know about revisions on joint replacements, nothing's simple, you know. Mm-hmm. So he has that to look forward to.
Well, they're never going to tell you it's complicated.
Well, you never know until they go in there. I've never seen a doctor say their surgery is going to be easy, you know. They usually will always.
That's what I mean.
They'll always under promise and over deliver, if anything. And you know, so he's the book is out, yeah, buddy. You know, and he's doing some signings. If you want like a personalized copy, I said, Ronnie, you're selling personalized. Are you out of your mind? He's like, I know. I underestimated. I underestimated the population. No, because he's signing every one of these books personally and putting in. He's letting people tell him what he wants them to write. So you can say, all right, Ronnie, here's what I want you to write in my book. He'll write it out by hand and then sign it. I said, Ronnie, you're gonna be working 6 hours a day. He's like, yeah, I've been doing it.
How many? Well, did he get to how many he sold? How many?
I don't know. They're selling them, but then on Amazon. But then he's selling them also personally. If you want the it's a little more expensive if you want the personalized version from Ronnie. Mm-hmm. Which I said, look, I guess if you're making money, Ronnie, it's worth it. But I don't know if I would do that. Take forever. I thought he was just putting his signature in it. I didn't know he was writing a little paragraph to these people. You know, and there's some people out there, they want you to write 10 pages to them. That's like a homework assignment. You know, I don't do homework, Chris.
No, you wing it, Dave.
No, I tell people all the time. I said, unless you're paying me, unless I'm like coaching you, I'll answer all your questions. But if you start giving me like homework assignments, like, all right, can you lay out a diet and workout program? And they ask for like very detailed stuff they want from me for free. I don't do it. I don't do homework. So that was Ronnie.
And what is it? A life story? Is that what it is?
It's his biography. It's by biography. I was trying to get information. I asked Ronnie. I said, Ronnie, what was the most difficult chapter for you to write? Because don't you think that would be something that you would want to know?
That's a great question that I wouldn't think of.
Right. Okay. I want to know emotionally when you sat down, what was the most difficult? He said none of them. They were all easy. Where do I go from there? What do I ask him from that point on?
Yeah.
Right. There was nothing that was more difficult that you were writing about? Nah, he goes, I talk about everything. I said, well, I would have a hard time writing about certain times in my life. I said, you delivered pizza at one point. I mean, that'd be tough, right? Yeah, but there were funny stories. He goes, there were some good stories when I was a police officer. I said, what about when you won the Olympia? The emotional impact that it had on you, I was trying to get him into that. We were talking about. Yeah, he's like, I couldn't believe.
He didn't. He was just happy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't mean that in a negative way.
He couldn't.
I mean, some people would be like overwhelmed, right?
Well, he was. I said, Ronnie, you were laying on the floor for 10 minutes before you got off the floor.
That was the first one.
I said, when you won the Olympia, I said, you were on the floor for 10 minutes. What were you thinking at that point? I was just thanking God.
Yeah.
What did Flex say to you? He's like, I think he just, It was a good interview because I was on top of him, but I had a lot of work for me on the interview. But he told me a lot of stuff that I didn't know about what was going. Like I said, the fact that he was a writer, and that he's not doing that well with his injuries and stuff. It seems like they're getting worse, and I don't know what's causing that. If it's just, I mean, to have every disc be ruptured on your spine, that's not a good thing, I'm thinking my dad. My dad didn't. He had a couple herniated discs, but
right.
My father just had spinal arthritis, but he was in agony. I mean, all the time. And my dad was 88. Ronnie's 50 in his mid 50s. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I say a prayer for Ronnie every day. I do, because chronic pain is not good. It changes your personality. I felt that his personality was not the same as it usually is. He seemed way more stoic, Flex Wheeler said it when he was, the reason he got his leg amputated. He had a deep vein thrombosis in the leg for a while, and they were trying to treat it, and I guess give him blood thinners, and it's evidently very painful. He said the pain was so severe that the choice became clear.
Easy.
Yes. People say, how do you get your leg amputated? He didn't have like gangrene or anything like that. Well, you know what? When you're in fucking pain 24/7, 10 out of 10 pain, you'd rather have the thing cut off after a while. That's how severe these things are. He had a 100% occlusion, he said, in one of the veins, and then there was I think one of the major veins, and I think the other one was 70%. So there was no blood flow. He had like virtually no blood flow to his foot. So of course he's going to be in pain. So I understand, I can understand, pain is not a good thing to be in. And Flex was lucky in a sense that he was able to get out of the pain. Although the healing process is probably very painful, but at some point, when everything heals up, he'll be out of that pain and he'll have a prosthetic on. It sucks, and I'm sure he's not happy about that, but at least he'll be out of pain. Ronnie's not going to be out of pain. So he's a tough individual. I think God gives you things that you can handle. I think only Ronnie Coleman can handle what he's going through right now. I don't think any other man could. Just like only Ronnie Coleman could have handled the Olympia and what he had to go through to be that bodybuilder, right? I mean, no one else could have endured what he did, those workouts at Metroflex in 100-degree heat.
Well, maybe they could.
I don't think so. I don't think anyone could. I don't think there's another human on the planet right now who could, or in the past, who could have endured the workouts with the level of weight he was carrying at the time and how much weight he was lifting. I mean, those guys that train with them, there was like, they even said it. Ronnie would set up a separate section for him to train. So they would have, if he was training with like a bunch of guys, they would have their section. Ronnie would have like a separate setup for the weights he was using because he was using so much more than everyone else. That's nuts. And he was training with top guys, not, run-of-the-mill, beginner bodybuilders by any means. Even Brian Dobbs said, I was a power lifter. I did well in meets. I couldn't keep up with Ronnie after a while. He was training Ronnie for 6 months, and Ronnie already passed by him. Ronnie had never even lifted weights. Passed right by him. Ronnie is such a classic. Did you hear about the 82-year-old woman who stopped an intruder coming into her house?
I did not.
Willie Murphy. She's not your average 82-year-old woman. She's a bodybuilder. Award-winning bodybuilder. I guess this guy tried to break into her house. He was knocking on the door, and he wanted to come in. He was trying to give her the sob story, and she knew better than to let him in, obviously. So she called the police. But then the guy just busted in. He didn't know she called the police. And so it was dark in the house, so she hid. And I guess the only thing that near her was like a little table, I don't know, kind of maybe like a TV table or something like that, or a little something you put drinks on. And she waited in the dark, and when he passed by her, she whacked him with the table. She beat the crap out of him with it. Then she went and got dishwashing soap and fucking emptied the whole thing into his eyes while he's on the floor. And then she started stabbing him with a broom. And the police came. The police had to pull her off of him. The guy, they had to call an ambulance for the guy. She was 82. The police gave her a standing ovation. They were taking pictures with her after their social media.
Bodybuilder, you got to get her on the show, Dave.
I know. You got to find her.
You got to get her on an interview.
I know.
If you had more hits than a Coleman interview.
She trains at the YMCA.
You could go into her diet and her training, and
she earned first place at her division at the World Natural Power. She's natural on top of that. World Natural Powerlifting Federation Championships, was named 2014 Lifter of the Year.
Just reach out to this lady and get her on the show.
Got to get her on, right?
Get her on an interview.
She reminds me of Linda Wood Hoyt. She's like that. I could see Linda doing that. The guy who breaks into Linda Wood Hoyt's house is going to be in for a major ass beating because Linda's probably way stronger than this woman is. So I love it. I love hearing stories like that. I'm like, that's fucking awesome.
You can get her on, and then you can ask her if the conditioning has gone down in the last 20 years, or
Yeah.
in terms of bodybuilding shows.
She's like, she can deadlift 225 pounds.
That's now?
Yeah, I can't even do that.
That's insane.
I can't even do that. She's
Send me the
82.
link so I can see what they have pictures of her.
Yeah, they got a picture of her. You'll love her.
You definitely are making a mistake if you don't have her on. See if she knows who the top. Ask her.
Hold on.
Hey, you know what you got to do is send her the top 10 from the Olympia and ask her to place them based on her bodybuilding eye. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. Get her opinion. It's not a scientific about, just an opinion.
She said she's not going to. She has no. Despite being able to deadlift 225 pounds, Murphy told the news agency that the Intruder was too heavy for her to move. He wants to get the heck out of here, and I'm trying to help him get out of the house, but I can't move him, she said. He's dead weight. By the time she had a chance to get close enough to try to move him, the police were already arriving. She does not plan on pressing charges. Can you believe that?
Of course. But she'd feel bad for the guy, probably.
I don't know. She's like, I guess she figured she'd beat the crap out of him. Maybe he'll learn his lesson. That's great. Did you know that? I didn't know this. I don't keep up on my astronomy like I used to. There's a massive wall of fire that reaches 8,900,000 degrees Fahrenheit. No, 89,000, 89,000 degrees Fahrenheit that surrounds our entire solar system. Thanks to Voyager 2's journey outside of our solar system, researchers have discovered a super hot barrier of plasma at the outermost edge of the solar system that reaches 89,000 degrees Fahrenheit. How crazy is that? How the fuck would we ever get through there if they ever wanted to take a spaceship out of there?
What is its role? To protect the solar system?
I guess. Maybe
from
from
invaders
cosmic, or I don't know. Who knows from what? Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Maybe that's the location of the Hellfire.
Isn't it interesting that they find stuff all the time that we have no idea exists?
Of course. So what did you see? I saw something today about the, I don't know, something.
I wonder how
Scientists discovered something today. The fourth. I'm surprised you're not up on it. I'm on information overload from the National, so I can't even remember.
Yeah, you know what the truth is? I only get lucky once in a while if I open a browser up and I'll read a line of.
Or somebody sent something to you.
Yeah, or someone will send it to me. I saw that new movie, the Martin Scorsese movie out is what is it called? The Irishman is out.
Yeah,
it's based on the theory of what happened to Jimmy Hoffa. It's like this era's Godfather. It's starring Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, but a whole cast of stars, are in the movie. It's like 3.5 hours, but I heard it's unbelievable.
You love movies, Dave. You
don't have time to watch them. I don't even know how. I'll never be able to go to the movies for 3.5 hours. I don't know what.
You know every movie. You were like, you could have worked for Netflix.
John Hanson and I were like movie buffs. I was going to.
Here's a no-brainer Nobel Prize. Hungarian scientists may have found a fifth force of nature.
Oh, really? What's that?
Physics.
Physics is the.
Hungarian scientists, Google it, may have found a fifth source of nature.
Fifth force of nature, you said, right?
Yeah. A fifth source.
Source or force?
Force. Google it.
You keep saying source. I don't know. What do you?
1 a.m. What do I can't even read.
Some physicists speculate that a form of dark energy called quintessence could be a fifth force. That's on Wikipedia. I don't know. Let me see. A no-brainer Nobel Prize. Oh, I see. I see this article. Hold on. Well, do you know what the other forces are? Gravity, electromagnetism, the weak and strong nuclear forces that hold the atoms together. Those are the four forces. So they're saying he found a fifth force. What is he saying then? Fifth forces. Scientists at the Institute for Nuclear Research at the Hungarian Academy of Sciences have posted findings showing that what could be an example of a fifth force at work. They were closely watching how an excited helium atom emitted light as it decayed. The particles split at an unusual angle, 115 degrees, which couldn't be explained by known physics. The study's lead scientist told CNN that this was the second time his team had detected a new particle, which they called X17, because they calculated its mass at 17 mega electron volts. X17 could be a particle which connects our visible world with the dark matter, he said in an email. Well, this is all speculation, of course. If these results can be replicated, this would be a no-brainer Nobel Prize. Interesting. They're always finding new shit. I always say it. We don't know what the fuck's going on. Everyone thinks they know what's going on, but they really don't. In short, it could change physics as we know it, or it could have just been a simple lab error. Some people said it, they just screw up sometimes. Isn't that crazy?
Figured you'd like that science stuff.
I love it. They referred to this unseen fifth force in action as the protophobic force, meaning that it was as though the particles were afraid of the protons. Meanwhile, nuclear physicists around the world are set to look for errors in the Hungarians' work. Isn't that our history? Let's try to prove this fucking guy wrong. Yeah, Columbus. They said the world is. Galileo said the world was round. They're like, let's try to prove this guy wrong. And you know what? If we can't, we'll just fucking make him. We'll just kill him off. You know, that's all. We don't want any. We don't want any new ideas screwing up our business right now, right? Once business is in action, no one wants any new ideas coming in.
Well, people don't like change.
God forbid we change the way the Nationals is run, right?
I knew that was the next thing out of a few miles.
Everything comes full circle, right? God forbid there's another way to do something, right?
Yeah. You want to be there next year and do your interviews, Dave.
We'll see. Maybe 2020 we'll hold it.
Well, you can still bring the people on the show. You
Yeah,
get the lady
I'm gonna get the
who
winners.
beat up the Intruder. And then after that, you can get on the Nationals winners.
Yeah. These other stories are so much more interesting, though, aren't they?
Well, we don't know because you didn't interview the winner, so they could be,
No,
as interesting.
I'm sure they got very interesting stories. I can't wait to do that. So, what are you doing for Thanksgiving this week?
I am going to my sister's, and then she lives in Boston area. And then we're going to spend a couple days looking around Boston.
Oh, cool. I put up a video of myself jumping in a pool of cold water, my pool in the backyard. It was like...
Well, I saw the beginning. I didn't see...
Yeah, you know what? I didn't realize it cut...
Cold water.
How stupid is Instagram? I'm complaining about everything. Instagram, I didn't realize it. People are like, oh, I guess Dave didn't jump in the pool. I'm like, what the hell is that? I watched the video. They cut off the end of it. I jumped in the pool.
It's 1 minute, right?
I didn't realize that.
I
forgot. I thought they changed the whole limit on stuff.
Well, I think that's when you go to like Instagram TV or Instagram Live.
Yeah, that's why I like Facebook. You can put up as long a video as you want. I'm gonna go and upload the second part of it.
Do you have a heat? You don't heat your pool?
I do, but we don't turn the heat. We don't leave the heat on all the time.
All right, what would it cost to heat that pool for the month?
Who knows? Probably a fortune. I just don't keep it on because we don't go in it that much. So, which I knew.
You already at the point that you don't even use it?
Yeah, I knew it. You know what? The kids are not that old, so they need supreme supervision in the pool. So
yeah,
and if it's cold outside, you got to turn the heater on at least the day before to get the thing warmed up. It's not like a fish tank where you kind of leave the heater on all the time, and it'll just kick on because it's waste of money really, to heat the thing if no one's going in it. And the kids have been sick, so my wife just wanted to let them go in there and just touch the water. She wants to see how cold it was. That never works, So my son doesn't give a shit about how it could be 60 degrees. He would have jumped in there.
They'll love it, of course.
He jumped right into. Once he saw me going, forget about it. My daughter, we couldn't get him out of the pool after that. We couldn't get him out of there with the clothes on and everything, right in there. My daughter went in right with her shoes on. She didn't even know to take the shoes off. She saw my son in there. She got into that pool so fast. We have the little sun shelf there, and so it's pretty funny. All right, well, let's get back to the Nationals. Now that I talked about everything I wanted to talk about. I think I did. I thought the overall. Okay, and you tell me. I know you weren't there for the night show, but you saw the comparisons. And you saw those guys at prejudging. I thought the overall between the super heavyweight, who you helped, Jonas Giatris, and the heavyweight who won the overall, Matt Schmidt. I thought it was very difficult to judge, from at least in the pictures that I saw, because they both have very different physiques. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, very different.
What do you think won it for Matt?
Back double.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, I only because I was not there, but and Matt was impressive. But I think looking at pictures, I think that I think there's a lot of poses, front double, side chest, side tricep, abs, thighs, most muscular, that I would give to the super. So if he didn't win, you go to the back shots, and the heavyweight clearly wins the back double and the back lat spread.
Yeah.
So, it goes back to that, which is a bogus concept. Shows a one from the back.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because the level of conditioning I'm seeing at the show is pretty good, but I just didn't think the physiques were that good. You know what? It's a great observation. I thought I was putting the work in. They're definitely putting the work in.
Very impressed with. Listen, I saw 3 classes. I saw the supers, all of it. I saw the heavies, all of it, and I saw a portion of the class before that. And I thought that the level of conditioning was extremely good. I just didn't see you don't see.
Stellar
there wasn't
physique.
a superstar bodybuilder
Right
there. In other words, let's see, who was the last superstar? You know what I mean? Somebody who just boom right into the pros third, second.
I don't know. It's a good question. There wasn't that many. Really, at the national, you mean NPC National winners? I don't know. It's a good question.
That said, again, the condition was, I was impressed with the level of conditioning. Top 5, even as
I thought
deep
the second
as
place
10.
heavyweight kid was really good. Casey Castro.
Yeah, he was also very good. Yep,
And he has a nice standing, relaxed structure.
Yeah, he was in tremendous. He was probably in.
His glutes are like Ronnie Coleman's.
Yeah, he was in better condition than the winner of the class, but there was more muscle maturity and true density on the winner.
You know how when you look at pictures of some guys, they just look good standing relaxed?
Yes.
This guy, if you standing relaxed, Casey Castro wins the show. Because he's taller. He looks like he's taller. At least he's got a longer torso. He's got the good quads, good width to him. Those amazing cubed abs. His glutes were like Ronnie's. Like I said, not as big, but just crazy striated. But I could see when you see him in the lineup next to each other, during the posing aspect of it, the other guy, Matt Schmidt
overwhelmed
looks
them
better.
with density and size.
So,
and it goes back to it goes back to this is. Clearly, Casey Castro had an extra level of conditioning over Matthew Schmidt, but it didn't detract in any way from Matthew Schmidt's package. In other words, he was bigger, rounder, denser, and definitely hard, and surely hard enough for that density and size.
Yeah, I agree.
They were both impressive. I mean, the guy who got third place was very impressive. Very impressive. What was his name? Ross Flanagan.
Yeah, I know him. He's good.
Fullness, condition was right there. No real weak body parts.
What's I guess depressing for me a little bit is the fact that the super heavyweight class was so good. Through the when they first created it for the first 10 years, that it's not that these guys are not good because they're conditioned. It's just I don't see I don't see the pro potential in a lot of these guys. So a lot of these guys are definitely good enough to turn pro. And I would never take that away from them. The conditioning, the muscle mass is there, but I don't think the structure is there, or where we're gonna say, oh, this guy's gonna be the next Mr. Olympia, or he's gonna win the Arnold Classic in 2 years. I just don't see it,
Well, I don't see an Olympian there, but at the same time, people can always turn pro and gain 10 pounds from there.
Right. I think a lot of that's what I'm saying. A lot of these guys have a lot of work to still do once they get to the pro ranks. And I don't know if it's just that guys they're turning so many people pro every year, Chris, that we're not getting the. In other words, when one guy got a pro card, there was like a backlog of people who needed to be pros that were just waiting in line, so to speak. So the nationals were the pro league minor leagues. Right, I mean, every guy in the top 5 pretty much could compete in the pros. Mm-hmm. They were just waiting to get their turn to get their pro card because there wasn't that many pro cards they gave out. Right? I mean, now because they give so many pro cards, I think what happens they're running the talent pool out. So the guys at the top are not really ready to turn, or at least they're not ready to win pro shows. They're turning pro, but then they have to spend 2-3 years to actually get good enough to be top level pros. Whereas in the past, those guys were forced to stay as amateurs for so long that when they turned pro, they were ready to win pro shows already, some of them,
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
It took Flex Wheeler a long time to turn pro. I mean, come on. That guy was awesome, when he was an amateur. It took Cormier probably longer than it should have to turn pro. Mike Francois, Dennis Newman.
Well, I mean, it took all those guys a couple of years, that's it.
Yeah, but Chris, those guys would have turned pro their second show. They would have done a qualifier in the pro and the USA, and they would have turned pro nowadays.
Yeah.
You remember when Dennis Newman lost
to Mike Francois?
Mike Francois. He probably was the best he ever was there. And then Francois lost the US. No, was it Francois that lost the USA to Newman?
No, you
Who lost the US? Who did Francois lose the USA to?
He lost by a point to Cormier.
Oh, right, Cormier. And I thought that was the best. I thought
just to calm down inconsistent coaches, because I had coached Cormier the year before.
Cormier said that. Oh, by the way,
and then the following year I coached Francois, and they were Mike clearly was better in terms of. This is a great example. He was bigger. He was harder. He was denser. And during the prejudging, I was like, Mike's got this easy.
Yeah.
And then guess what? I kept on looking at Cormier, and I thought, if I'm looking at Cormier...
Such a good poser, Cormier, that's why.
Well, he had crazy flow.
Yeah.
He had a tremendous midsection, full pecs, full delts, capped triceps, insane separated quads. And I thought, oh, if I'm looking at Cormier, that must mean I think he's winning. And that's where I started to get my little antenna, Dave, for bodybuilding. I was like,
right.
if my eyes, and I'm biased towards Mike, going back to Cormier, maybe it means that I think Cormier's winning. And I said no. Then I go back to Francois and I said no, too big, thick, and hard.
I thought that was the best he ever looked.
Oh yeah,
in the amateurs.
Yeah,
better than when he won the Nationals. I thought it was better than when he won the Nationals.
When I got the score sheets, it was only 1 point.
Yeah, he was really good there, Mike. That was his. I thought he was crazy shredded there. But you know what? The funny thing is, you mentioned about Cormier. Cormier has a documentary they did on him that just came out, and they sent me the link, and I actually watched it. I actually had time. I watched it while my kids were running around like lunatics, and I was like I had to have my ear at the TV set so I could hear it. I was on 3 inches from the screen because my kids were running around like nuts. But I watched the whole thing, and it was really, really, really well done. And I'm having Chris actually on the TV show on Wednesday to talk about the documentary. It was very. I don't know how they got all the footage. They got footage of almost every show he ever did. I'd love to get the guy who made the film on there because he had to have busted his balls to make this movie. And it documented Chris's whole career, and they got top names, on there. Flex Wheeler, Dorian Yates, Lee Haney, Sean Ray. Of course, Sean was talking about himself the whole time. But
I knew you could.
He was. I don't know why. I mean, but he's interesting.
When he mentioned his name, I said, well, he must have talked about himself.
Yeah, he was. He had to put all his own factoids in there. But they had a lot of good people.
He's your buddy
Rico
now.
McClinton. They had a lot of good people in there, really giving good insights into Chris.
I would have liked to give my insights into Chris.
Chris mentions you. He mentioned you a lot in it, actually.
Chris came to. I get you, Dave. You want to laugh? You can ask me. I promoted bodybuilding shows before anyone was like into this promoting bodybuilding shows. I've done it all.
What was your application fee back then?
Like $10.
Did you let the press in?
I did have I had a trade show at an amateur event that nobody had done at an amateur event. I just copied it from what I saw. I said, okay, they're doing something like this on a small scale at the Olympia. This had to be like, Dave, 1990.
Wow.
And Cormier came and stayed with me for only like 3 days. And he looked like terrible. And I looked at him and I thought, God, he looks small and he looks watery. And then I looked and I looked and I thought, well, he's not as watery as I think, but there's just no separation. But Cormier always has crazy separation.
Yeah,
so maybe he doesn't look big because he's lacking separation.
Did you dehydrated, direct him to death?
No, I don't know what he did. I can't remember. Maybe we talked to something. I can't even remember. But he had like 7 days to go between my show where he guest posed and the New York Pro.
Okay. And
he showed up 7 days later at the New York Pro, not like 20% better, which would be an exaggeration, like 90% better.
That was Chris.
90% better. I think he was only 220. I asked him, what was you? I think he was 230 when he won the New York Pro.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. I saw him. It had to be the 2002 or 3 Olympia. I'm not sure which one. And he came to my hotel room because he was hanging out with this girl I knew. And he looked so bad. This was like 2 days out. So bad. I've never seen anyone look. I said, this guy he's going to get killed. What is he doing here? He's like, don't worry. I said, Chris, you hold a lot of, like you said, water, and just like, he just didn't look good. He's like, Dad, don't worry about it. I don't think he slept for the next 48 hours. He was up nonstop, posing and running around and going out to clubs and shit. This was the Olympia. He looked so good on stage at that show. I don't know. It was like a different person I was looking at. He could change his body in 2 days.
That was 2 days. He had 7 days.
Yeah.
Listen, one of the years, the year he won, no, the year he was third at the USA. He was third. Wheeler was second. Christophe was first. Mm-hmm. And Chris looked exceptional, like 5 weeks out, 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out. And I'd see him all the time. He came to my office in Gold's, and 3 days out, 4 days out, he looked great. And I would just like, oh, he's got this show. I mean, extremely hard. Mm-hmm. 3 days out, he looked like he was 17 weeks out.
Oh my God.
And, I don't know, maybe he took like a diuretic or something. I don't know why he looked like that, but the next day he was back down to like peeled.
Yeah, he had his own little concoction way of drying out and getting hard, but it worked. That's for sure. Whatever he did.
Is the movie on Netflix? How do you watch the movie?
Yeah, I'm going to get all the information. I think you can. I think they have a website you can purchase it from. I don't know if I don't think it's on Netflix. I think it's something you have to like download and pay for. Well, I'm going to have him on Wednesday. We'll have all that information available. I'm going to ask him about what his own personal tricks, because I don't think anyone's ever asked him that. I want to know what he would do when he would. I'm going to remind him of the day that time that I saw him in the hotel room, that whatever it was, 03 or 02. I want to know what he did that 40 hours. I want to know the whole drug cocktail.
He's dating Kim Kardashian's cousin. Did you know that?
No, is he really?
No. Do you know who he's dating?
No. Who is he dating?
Ask him.
Oh.
Chris Aceto wants you to, spill the beans on who you were dating.
Oh, at the time, you mean?
No, now.
Oh, is he really dating someone famous?
I think she's famous.
Okay. You don't want to tell us?
No, because he's going to be surprised that you ask him.
I didn't even know.
Unless he listens to the show. Unless he listens to the show tomorrow before he gets on.
Yeah. All right. You'll have to text me that on Wednesday.
I think he's in love, actually.
Oh, really?
Tell him. Yeah.
Good. Well, the video, the documentary is so insightful. He must, after he watched it, it had to really hit home about, everything that was said. Flex Wheeler said to him at one point, him and Rico, they were training partners, Rico McClinton, Flex, and Cormier, and they lifted heavy weights, and they were serious. Even though Dorian felt they were into the partying and talkers, and they trained at Gold's. They might have taken 6 hours to do it, but they trained over there, pretty heavy. And Flex and Rico realized that Chris was partying too much and doing drugs, and they had to have an intervention with him. And Flex said it was very uncomfortable, and he basically told Chris that if he's not willing to admit it and stop doing the recreational drugs, that they can be, they could be acquaintances, but they can't be friends and training partners with him. And Flex said, "Look, if it comes down to it, you hit a point where you've had enough, and it's 2 a.m. and you need me to come pick you up someplace. You call me, I'll come pick you up." He goes, "Because I'm your friend, I love you, but I won't train with you. You're not gonna. I can't be a part of that." And that was tough. And they stopped training. They got rid of. That's how they broke up. And Chris was like, "Man, why do you have to be like this?" And he just, he was in denial. He didn't want to stop his lifestyle. He's like, "I want to, do my thing." And that was very tough for Flex because they were very close, all of them. But Rico and Flex didn't do that stuff. They didn't do recreational drugs, and they didn't want to condone it. And I understand that. I can understand, but that's still a very difficult thing to tell one of your best friends. So I thought that was really something a lot of people probably didn't realize. I didn't know was that they were so aware, and that they actually told him, "Hey, look, you better stop." But people have to hit their own rock bottoms, and it's great that Chris is still alive, because he could have killed himself. He said he was almost dead one time,
Yeah.
And he said he was blacking out. He said as he was walking around, and he just passed out. He didn't even know what was going on. That's how scrub. Actually, Ronnie was in the video too. Ronnie said that he once went out with Chris, and he had to carry him back to his hotel room. He goes, "Man, Chris is heavy." And I'm thinking to myself, Ronnie could have been the only person who could have carried him back. Who else could have carried Chris Cormier? I couldn't have carried him at my biggest. Ronnie just pretended he was doing a fucking squat workout and put him over his shoulders. Did walking lunges with him, back to the hotel. So definitely got to watch this thing. Like I said, Chris will be on the show on Wednesday to promote it. I don't even know if it's out yet, but you got to check it out. It's very well done. They did a really, really good job on it. And a lot of people don't realize it. It's slightly depressing because Chris, everyone said, Chris could have been Mr. Olympia, at least once.
Yeah.
That year that Dexter won, he could have won it, right? I mean, if he was. Well,
he definitely. I mean, I've helped a lot of people, and I told you the Bob Harris story. I've told it 25 times on the show.
Yeah.
The bottom line is Chris had. Chris was phenomenal because of his balance, and the pictures don't show that balance. In other words, people sometimes will say, "Oh, he could have been bigger." Yeah, everyone can. He could have been harder. Yeah, a lot of people can, including Chris. But the way it translates in real life, his flow and shape and extreme balance would negate other people's extreme condition or,
right.
larger body mass, more size.
All right. Dorian tried to get a hold of him for a while after Dorian retired, and Dorian was going to make him Mr. Olympia. He was convinced.
I wouldn't have, yeah.
But he couldn't. Chris could not commit to the Dorian lifestyle, which is doing nothing basically but bodybuilding. That was too much for Chris to handle at that time. But I think that Dorian would have made him Mr. Olympia if he would have been able to sequester him, pull the old Apollo Creed and Rocky, type of thing.
Cormier is one of the. We were talking before the show started about experience and having an eye for bodybuilding in terms of judging.
Yeah, he's good.
Cormier has an expert, impeccable eye to determine what are your weaknesses, which is important, but also has, the training knowledge to be able to decide
Correct it.
how do you take those weaknesses and make them, less weak.
Yeah, no, he's very good. I think the
I
best is
talk
yet to come.
bodybuilding with him all the time. All the time. Whenever I see him, we talk. The second we get together, it's, whatever show, we start talking a mile a minute about, usually it's like the Olympia or the Arnold, which could be, the classic division or the open division. And we just run the gambit, and he'll be able to go down and critique all 35 guys perfectly in the class.
He lived with what's his name, Breon Ansley, helped him for that Olympia. And you know what the funny thing was? Breon lost, but he looked amazing. So it wasn't like they failed. It was just
great.
It wasn't like it was a fail. It wasn't a fail. And actually, Breon was in the documentary too. Was talking about Chris. So they got everyone in there. It was terrific.
I love at the classic prejudging, Cormier. I sat next to Cormier, right? So of course they compare the top three over and over and over, and Cormier gets emotionally wrecked after the
he was like, it was like he was up on stage, right?
Worse, because if he was up on stage, he'd just he'd know what to do and when to do it. Mm-hmm. And he would yell some type of command for Breon on every front double. There'd be like 5 different things that he'd tell Breon to do.
Yeah, well, it's frustrating.
Back, tilt the shoulders, flex the arms more.
Right.
And Cormier was like drenched and exhausted after.
Because it was like he was up there posing. It was like he was.
No, I loved it though. I loved it. I give him a big hug and say, Cormier, who worked harder? He's, what Chris said? I did.
Yeah. Because it's like the old saying, like if you knew what you know now, how great could you have been back then?
Oh yeah.
Imagine if Chris had the wisdom and insight into himself.
Oh, he would have won now.
What he
would. Shadow of a doubt. Done.
But that's the difference between a champion and non-champion. Champions are the guys that are able to do it when it counts, not after the fact.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say he wasn't a champion. I would just say that he was up against Dorian.
Well, Mr. Olympia, we're talking
about.
But I'm talking after Dorian's, after Dorian left, so to speak,
Well, you still had Ronnie to deal with next.
Right.
I mean, but like an era that was just like, think of the Goliaths who he was up against.
True.
It's not like he was up against. I mean, think of those two people. Hi, I'm up against Dorian. Now Dorian's done. Now Coleman's gone 4D.
Right. Look, I think Chris would have had a longer career too if he didn't party so much. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm sure he would.
I'm glad as a friend of Chris that he's alive after all the craziness he did. That just goes to show you that when it's not your time, it's not your time. We all have our own.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because that could have been very.
Because easily he could have been a statistic, a rich pianist statistic or something like that,
Yeah.
And I'm glad we didn't lose him because he's a good guy. So we'll check that documentary out. Once again, they did a very, very good job on that. All right, back to nationals. We keep getting distracted. I just want to say that I'm glad I'm seeing the numbers that we are. I think, a lot of people are criticizing, and I've been critical of the talent pool that we've seen sometimes at nationals too, but I really believe it's our own fault because we're giving out too many pro cards every year, and we're exhausting the supply of top talent so quickly that we're never seeing the talent pool build up in the amateurs. We're taking them out too quickly into the pros. You know what I'm saying?
It's a good point. Yeah, no, it's a good point.
That's
point.
the whole thing. And we still have huge amounts in the nationals. So that just tells you that there's more people than ever competing in bodybuilding. The problem is we're siphoning off some of that talent into classic physique too. So you got to take that into account. So these guys will do well if they continue into the pros and grow into their physiques. Now, obviously, if these guys are 40 years old and they're turning pro, you're not going to see much improvement. But I'm talking about the young guys that may be turning pro and we're like, they're not that good. You know what? Give them 5 years now and let's see how they look. These are guys that wouldn't have turned pro for 5 years anyway had they not given out as many pro cards as they do. I mean, 2 guys in every class got a pro card here.
I know, but then you were like 2 years ago. You were bitching and moaning that they don't give enough pro cards.
I never said that. Never. When did I ever say they don't give it a Never.
I mean, you want the juniors to give a pro card.
Yeah, I do. I want one pro card there. They gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pro cards to the men's bodybuilders here. 13. How long would it have taken to get 13 pros back in the 1990s? 3 years, maybe? Yeah. It would have taken you 3 years to get 13 pros. You just gave it in one contest. How many does the Masters Nationals give? How many does the USA give? How many does the North American give? There's too many pro cards being given out. And it's... So your amateurs are being watered down. That's all. And there's nothing wrong with that. We'll get used to it eventually. But we're not going to see the level of talent coming into the amateur ranks at the top, except for that occasional freak that's going to pop out of nowhere.
No, I get it.
We're not going to see it on a regular basis anymore because we're sucking out too much talent.
Dave Palumbo wants to see like a...
No, I don't care. I'm okay with it.
A Wheeler win, a Francois win, and a Cormier win, and they go.
We're
right
not going to see those
like,
battles anymore, where the guys are like all pros battling each other in the top 5. We'll never see that again because they changed the system, and that's what people have to understand. It's not a bad or good thing. Yeah. It just is the way it is now. So we have to wait for these guys to get to the pros where we're going to see the battles occurring. We're not going to see them in the amateurs anymore.
So, for example, the top 2 in the supers and the heavies here, they're pro, and then by definition, we go to the USA and you take the top 2 out there, they're pro, and then the North America top 2, they're pro. Yeah. So you're down to the 8th place guy.
But then you got the Masters and over 35. I mean, 35 is not an old guy anymore. You're losing guys who are 30 and 40 in the Masters pro cards at North American and Masters Nationals and Team Universe. That's a lot of pro cards you're giving away.
Yeah.
So they're taking out a lot of the top talent. And so by the time you get to Nationals at the end of the year, there's not that many guys left. And then after the year's over, now you think about it. Who do you got left? You get your 3rd, 4th, 5th place guys that are going to be pro next year.
Guy. No, I said you're down to the 8th guy. If you take the top 2 in the class here, top 2 in the North Americas, you take one of those guys is over 35, pull him out. So there's 5 guys gone.
That's what I'm
saying. So the guy who's the top guy is the guy who got 6th.
I'm seeing guys who have very good physiques that are just not ready to turn pro yet. You said it best when we were talking off camera. You said this is like a good junior national show. And it doesn't have anything, we're not trying to put the talent down. What you're trying to say is that the guys that used to do junior nationals back in the 90s, were the guys that are now doing the nationals and getting pro cards because the top tier guys have already been siphoned off. And so these guys are going to be your future stars. They're just not ready to they're not at that level.
They're not going to do damage right away.
Yeah, they need a couple more years. So I like the fact that we're seeing a lot of young guys competing nowadays and that we're seeing good physiques. I mean, I just think that these guys just haven't developed yet. I mean, where they need to be. I'm looking at this guy, Stephen Wayne. Have you looked at his physique?
Yeah, thick as a brick.
Yeah, shredded.
Yeah.
He was 2nd in the light heavies.
Yeah, he was sticking around.
Fernando Bueno.
Both impressive.
Yeah, I like the 2nd place guy better. But the other guy's good too. He just needs to be a little bit harder. But so I think the talent pool is there, and I think that once again, I think in 5 years these guys are going to be the guys we're talking about who are winning shows and who are competing. So it's nice to see new talent because usually at the Nationals. How often would we look at the list and we knew every person we knew the top 10 were? We could almost place them before the show. Yeah. I don't know who anyone is when I look at the list. I know like a couple of names here and there. Just
because you and I are old, I guess.
No, they're all new people. I interview everyone every year. I know all the top tier guys. It's a new crop every single year. Although I see my friend Rob Wickman got his pro card in the middleweights. Congratulations. He's been competing for a long time. But by and far, most of these guys are guys that are newer guys who are winning, and so it's once again the system is not broken. It doesn't need fixing. It's just changed, and we have to accept that. And so it's impossible to ever compare the '90s Nationals to the now. They'll always be better in the '90s. They'll always be better because the guys should have been pros in the '90s. If those guys were competing nowadays, they would be pros already. So they wouldn't have been in the amateurs for 5 or 6 years trying to get their pro card. That
makes sense.
That's important. I think that's an important point to bring out because it's not fair to compare these guys to the 90s. Okay, and I've done it myself, and I realize it now because this is the problem. They're just not at that level yet. What was your take? Did you watch the Classic Physique?
I only saw the overall winner was exceptional.
Jordan Tripp Arthur,
yeah. He's gonna go right into a pro show, and as he's gonna be effective.
Yeah, all these guys look really good. I helped out a friend of mine with the Class A second place finisher, Ryan Frater, who's a natural guy. What a talent this guy is. He's going to be super dangerous when he hits the pros. And
I think the Classic is still going to, you know what? It is still, I think this year, but especially next year, we're gonna see a lot of change in the Olympia top 5, and they're going to be people that we don't know yet. Because when you talk about talent pool, the talent pool is shifting and quickly, and the Classic division is vacuuming up a lot of physiques that are phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree with that. But you know what the problem is that there's a weight disparagement. In other words, the weight limit in the amateurs is lower than the weight limit in the pros. So the guys are smaller coming into the pros. So these guys once again have to grow into this pro class. Mm-hmm. And that's an issue. So it's hard for these guys to come out of the amateurs. I think you have a better chance coming out of the amateurs as a bodybuilder and then going into Classic if you can make the crossover, kind of like what Bumstead did, because then you're kind of there already. A guy who turns pro in Classic probably needs to spend 2 years to get up to size to really compete with some of these top guys. And so that's where that disconnect is. So if you notice, the guys that are really seem to be factors from day one in Classic pros are coming from bodybuilding, really, a lot of times. And they're usually coming from the middleweight classes and those. Like, I mean, wasn't Brian a middleweight? Or a lightweight?
I think he was a middle.
He was one of the small. I think he was like a middleweight, 176 pounds. So, but he was a very good bodybuilder, So he was well developed when he hit the Classic, physique division. And we've seen it with guys like you helped Henry Pierreneau switch over and just be a factor from day one, because he's a bodybuilder. He's got development already. A lot of these guys who started in Classic and never competed in anything else, they're going to take time. It's going to take time for them to develop into pros. Zeke Andrews won Class A. He looked really good. Jordan Tripp Arthur was the overall champion Class B, and Brandon Cooper looked really good in Class C win. I guess they're arbitrarily, what do they just divide these up by height classes, huh?
I don't even know.
Yeah, they're height classes. And Zack Romano, no relation to John Romano, won the tall class. He's got a good physique, good vacuum, good arms. And we talked about this before. Those Classic trunks are like almost there. We're almost at posing trunks, Chris.
Well, people hiking them up, so
yeah, they're. I see glutes. I mean, the first thing you said when they created Classic was, "Thank God it's not going to be a glute contest." I said, "No, it will be again."
Yeah, you did say that.
It will be. So we're pretty much there. These are the posing trunks I think that you and I would be using back in when we started. Probably that's what they look like. And then they got skimpier from there. Remember they used to have the Andreas. I don't know if Andreas made a lot of money, but I know back in the day the only place you can get posing trunks was Andreas Calling. You remember he had the Olympia style cut, the pro cut. I don't even know if there was any difference between them, but
he was the posing trunk guy. He had a million different colors, and he was the only one who had like a high cut, right?
Right, where you can pull them up, and they had like a nice V taper to them. He must have sold thousands. I got to ask him about that. He must have sold thousands of those things initially.
Oh, I'm sure tons.
You couldn't buy trunks anyplace else. That was it. He had ads in all the magazines, You ordered them online, and then they came in the mail. I used to buy them just to practice posing in. They're great. Obviously, now everyone gets everything custom made. CJ does, a great job with that. She made me most of my trunks throughout my career. And that's it. It was a great nationals. Had a great turnout. Bikini was won by Ariana Brothers. She won the overall, along with another 15 pro cards they gave out. Figure was won by Rachel Shumaki. They gave out 11 pro cards in that division. And I told you women's bodybuilding. We talked about the classic winner, Jordan Tripp Arthur, and men's physique was Patrick Martin. And they gave out 15 pro cards in men's physique. I think that was the biggest division of the show. Crazy.
Yeah, sure it was. How many? Right?
I don't know. It's a very long list of names. Look, it's the number one amateur show in the world, not just the U.S. It's in the world. There's no show bigger than this show, and I understand Steve Carroll's been doing it for 100 years, but it's time for change, guys. Make it happen. Not that you need me back there, but I'd love to come back there when it's. I'd like to just for the athlete experience in general. I think they should change it and get it out of freaking Miami, for God's sakes.
No, I'll never go.
Well, at least put it in a better part of Miami that's a little more accessible. I liked it when remember they had it that one year in Hollywood, which was right outside of Fort Lauderdale there. That was great. Oh, it was so nice. It was easy to drive to.
When was it in Hollywood? You mean?
It was in Hollywood, Florida.
Oh, that's right. It was at the.
It's at that hotel, right?
Yeah, at the $1 billion hotel.
I don't know why they don't hold. That was a great venue. It was so easy to get to. You didn't have to fight Miami traffic. To make a full circle, the last year that I went there, I had my laptop stolen. Remember in Whole Foods?
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I got
a return.
I got it back. Yeah, I got it back from the woman, and I just like the 82-year-old woman, I dropped the charges when the woman returned their laptop. I was forgiving. I could have had it prosecuted because it's grand larceny. It was because it was a $2,000 computer, and the thing never fucking worked. It was like. I don't know. She was downloaded games on there and shit like that. So I had the thing wiped clean, and I had a new keypad put in it because something wasn't working right. And I had bought a new computer in the meantime, so I had this extra computer. So Amanda was going to use it for like business and stuff like that. She downloaded QuickBooks on it and put all the stuff on it, and it stopped working. I'm like, fuck, man, I'm jinxed. So it sat in our house in the computer room for over a year and a half. No one turned it on. So my computer had a problem, and I'm like, so I had the Dell people come and fix it because I have the service contract. That's one thing. If you buy a laptop, always buy the in-house service on it. If you use your laptop a lot, they come to your house, they fix it. And the guy who came, I said, "Can you take a look at this other computer?" It was the same one. I bought the same exact computer basically. And there was just, I guess, one of the hard drive, something in the setup that even I, who is computer savvy, would never know how to switch. It was like one little stupid setting that was off. And he fixed it, and I've been using the thing now. So it was ironic, but over Nationals weekend, I was forced to start using the same laptop that I used at that Nationals. And I'm using it now until my computer comes back. Because I actually had to send my computer back to Dell. It was so fucked up that they said, you know what, we'll swap everything out. We'll fix everything for you. I was like, fine, I don't care. It's on this contract with you guys. I'll mail it back to you. They send you a box. You put it in the box. They ship it off. And then when they fix it, they send it back to you. So I've come full circle. The Nationals have come full circle. Chris Aceto has come full circle. And we're back to the starting gates. And we're almost at the end of 2019. And we're about to start a new decade, Chris. So everything is being renewed. And I think the National should be renewed in the new decade that is coming.
I love that timing, Dave.
Yes. Everything. I like when things tie together like that. Oh, perfectly at the end of the day. Who do I have on the show this week? Before I let you go. I have some good interviews lined up. So I have Cormier. And I have Phil Heath on the show. I forgot that. Phil Heath will be coming on the show on Tuesday to talk about the Dubai Muscle Classic that I won't be going to, but that Sid will be over there interviewing people. So I got Phil, and Phil's like, the headliner of that show this year. And then actually after the Cormier interview, I have Lee Priest coming on for Iron Rage, and Cormier's going to stay on their show with me, and we're going to talk about 90s bodybuilding because Cormier's pissed off about it.
What's he pissed off about?
Well, you know how Fuad and Luke Sando, came on. We did Iron Debate, and they were saying, the guys are, the cameras are better nowadays. So that's why the guys don't look as good because it's HD, and I don't know. They were making up some cockamamie thing. Chris wants to come on and defend the 90s bodybuilding. He wants to talk about it. So I'm like, fine. So Chris, I'm going to get a double dose of Cormier. We're going to have on RxMuscle this week. We haven't had him for a while, so we got to get a double dose of him. And if you guys have any questions you want me to ask Phil, feel free to send them to me. But I'd like to see. I'm glad that Phil didn't compete this year because now I can ask him about what his take on all the shows were and all the placings. Because now that he's removed, I'm assuming he's coming back in 2020, and that's obviously one of the questions I'll be asking him as well. But it'll be interesting to see why he took off the time and what he did in that time off, and then what he felt about what happened at the Olympia. So that'll be a good interview. And I'm sure Chris will text me some questions to ask Phil too. Right before I do it, Chris will be like, "Ask me this."
No, I think you can handle it.
Yeah, you always give me at least one good question to ask every athlete. And I always tell them, this is from Chris Aceto. And they're like, oh. I like when you ask me that. Like when I ask, you'll give me a Cormier question, I'm sure, that I won't even know about. You'll be like, ask Chris the time he came into my office at Gold's in Venice. And
ask him who he's dating.
I'm going to ask him who he's dating. I got to remember. If I don't write the shit down, I don't remember anything anymore. It's terrible. It is terrible. All right, that's it, Chris. Congratulations on going to the Nationals and no one even knowing you were there. You got in and out of there Did you buy a ticket?
Yeah, I bought a ticket. It was $80. Oh. But I didn't leave, so I didn't have to buy two.
Very smart. But you only stayed for, 3 classes?
I stayed for 3 classes.
All right. Congratulations to our overall winner, Matt Schmidt. If I don't get in touch with you, get in touch with me. We want to get you on the show this week. And same goes for the men's physique and classic physique winner. We'll get you all guys on. Give you your day. And people always ask me, how come you don't get more women on? I'm like, because no one watches the women's stuff. I get women on that have an interesting story. I'll have women who contact me, and then I get them on the show. You guys got to tell me why you want to be on the show. I had one woman contact me. She's like, I want to be on the show. I think I'd be a good guest. I said, well, all right. What's your story? She said, well, I don't really have a story. I said, well, then why would anyone want to listen to you? Have a story at least. You're going to contact me to come on the TV show and you want to be interviewed. It's got to be more than just you won the show. Everyone has a story, Chris. You know that and I know that, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone has something that they've gone through hardship-wise, family-wise, personal-wise that caused them to say, you know what? I want to be a pro bodybuilder or pro physique or figure, whatever the case may be. Because everyone has something that gives them drive and there's a motivation. And that's what I was trying to get from Ronnie, when I interviewed him. What drives you? What drove you to try to be the best in the world and maybe be the best bodybuilder ever in the history of the sport? And everyone has that something. And that's your story, Whether it be your mom died at, when you were a kid, or your dad abandoned you, and you wanted to or you're a type 1 diabetic like Jason posted. Everyone's got a story, Give me a story. That's what people want to know. No one wants to know that you're perfect and that there's nothing wrong with your life and that you're just a motivated person. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't buy into it. All right. I know we tried to end the show a million times already, but this time we're doing it for sure. Until next week, guys, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night.